Right, we are still looking at computer networks and our objectives for the day. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to identify the components of a computer network, number one. Number two, you should be able to identify the different types of networks. Number three, you should be able to differentiate between client server and peer-to-peer LAN. And then lastly, you should be able to understand network access control. We quickly move on to today's content. Looking at components of a computer network. As we discussed yesterday, we saw that a computer has different hardware devices which are connected together through different ways of communication and for the purpose of sharing both resources and files. Right. The hardware that is needed or the components that are needed for a network depend on what type of network you want to establish. We are going to look at two types of networks, which is number one, wired and wireless networks. Nodes. What are nodes? When we did the definition or described what a network is, we spoke of computing devices. Now, when we refer to nodes, we are referring to the same thing. So nodes refer to the devices that are connected in the network, which are able to send and receive data. So the computing devices that you mentioned in the definition of a network are what we are referring to as nodes. And then these could be printers, it could be servers, it could be workstations, that is PCs or laptops, it could be mobile devices, it could be access points. The second component is the network operating system, NOS, which is a specialized operating system that allows additional security and settings. Examples of these, we have been talking about these ones. Examples, Windows Server 2019, Windows Server 2000, they used to be 2003, and then 2008, and then we have Unix, Linux, and then we have Solaris. So these are examples of network operating system. And if you can recall, we did go through this section when we were dealing with operating software. Number three, you need a network interface controller, NIC in short. This one has also other names like network interface card, network adapter, LAN adapter, and then LAN is local area network, or physical network interface. So any of these names, if you mention like what is a NIC, if you say, okay, it's a network interface card, it's correct. If you say it's a network adapter, it's correct. So this is the hardware component that is needed for a computer to communicate on the network, to be connected on the network. So we have two types, which is one which is wireless, and then we have one that is wired. Right. If you need your computer to communicate without the need of cables, you need to get a wireless NIC card. And what does it do? Computers, I know you are programmers. Computers, they are digital, right? So data, if it has to pass through cables, it has to be converted into a format that can be transferred through copper wires. So the part of the computer that does that conversion is the NIC. So it converts digital, that is the zeros and ones, into electrical impulses that can be wired over the copper cables, or if it's wireless, then it converts it into electromagnetic waves or radio waves. And then it can be transferred from one PC to the other and vice versa. The NIC also does the reverse, that is, it converts electrical impulses which are being transferred along the wires into digital, which can be understood by the computer. If you fail to get this one, you can just flag and then you say, okay, can you explain again? The second type of NIC, which is wired, unlike the wireless, this one uses wires. And then there are two types of wires, cables that we are going to discuss. So the cables, we refer to them as the physical channel through which data can be sent or received. So wired medium, a wired network is a network that uses a physical media to transfer data between two or more nodes. Remember, nodes, we said it's referring to the computing devices. So, okay, so the transmission media for wired networks are, number one, we have unshielded twisted pair. So if you look at what I have here, this picture, you will see these cables are in pairs. In total, they are 10. There are 8 cables, 4 pairs, right? So they are twisted. There is a reason why they are twisted. We will deal with that one a little bit later. And for these ones to be connected to the computer, to the network card, you need what we call RJ45 connectors. These are the RJ45 connectors. So if you look at your laptop or PC, where you have the NIC, you will see where you fit these cables. That's for the network. And on any computer, unless if it's a firewall, you are going to have one connection port where you can insert the UTP cable. Then the computers are connected. We can use routers, switches to link the computers together, of which we are going to look at that one much later. Remember to put questions if you do not understand any of the concepts. Then the second type of cable is fiber optic. The difference between UTP and fiber optic is how the information is transferred. With UTP, it's through electrical impulses. Whereas with fiber optic, is through light. So information travels at the speed of light. So wired medium, it's a wired network that uses a physical media to transfer data between two or more nodes. And then this one is, again, as we said earlier, transmission media for wired networks. And we are dealing with the second one, which is fiber optic. And unlike the UTP. These ones are thin, very, very thin, and it's flexible, and it has lots and lots of advantages that we're going to speak about. And then this is mainly used as backbone, like connections between continents. Like for instance, there is a connection that goes from Cape Town to Europe, which goes through West Africa. If you remember, I think beginning of this year, we had a problem with internet when it was slow. Reason being, one of the cable, the undersea cable, had broken and they had to fix it. They are also known as submarine undersea cables. Right. Any questions? If you have questions, remember, just post the question. Then we need a communication media. Wireless network, we have wireless for the communication medium. We have two, wireless and wired. And then wireless network is a network that uses non-physical components to transfer data between two or more nodes. There is no need for cables if you are using a wired. Local area networks are often wireless LANs. Then you can say it's WLAN, which is wireless LAN. Then the media includes radio waves, which is wireless network, and then infrared signals, wireless network. Right, so the devices, you can check on the diagram there, the devices are not linked physically per se. They are linked wirelessly. And then in this case, it's making use of a router. That's why at home, if you have fiber optic, okay, the router is wired to the fiber optic network. For instance, let's say telecom, or you can say OpenServe. But for you to connect your devices, you do it wirelessly using Wi-Fi. So it's wireless connection. If you are considering how you connect to the internet, that is between any node or device in your home to the router, it's wireless. But from the router to the company that is providing internet access, it's wired. Either it's through fiber optic or through ADSL. We are going to deal with ADSL much later. Right, we going to take to compare the different types of communication media based on cost, accessibility, coverage, and security. So we start with UTP, and as I said earlier, it uses electricity to move the signals from a sender to a receiver and vice versa. This is cheap, it's very, very cheap, and relatively simple to install with minimal equipment and technical expertise. You can just go, let's say, for instance, we have two computers that you want to link together. You don't have to worry about making the code. You just go and buy the UTP cable, and then you can connect the computers together, and then you can use them. You can share information between them. Right, coverage, it can only connect devices up to 100 meters. That's the limitation. Anything more than 100, there are going to be challenges. So the recommended is 100 meters. So this is mostly used in local area networks. Let's say, for instance, at your schools, most of the networks are done through UTP cables, even though you might have access points so that you can connect your devices wirelessly, but they are linked together through UTP cables. Disadvantage, it's prone to electrical wave interference and has weak security. There is a chance, a risk that anyone can intercept the signals and end up stealing your data. And there's also a chance that the signal may get weaker, because remember, we are dealing with electrical signals. It might end up getting weaker. And the result is the data that is sent might end up being faulty, because if the signal that is received is weaker, it means some data has been lost along the way. So you end up receiving data that is faulty, right? Those are some of the disadvantages. And then number two, we have fiber optic, which uses light and move the signals from a sender to a receiver using light. So there is need for laser, and the signals are transferred from one computer to the other. But this one now, again, there is need for the signals to be converted from digital to light signals. And then when it gets to the receiver's computer, also the signals are converted from light signals into digital signals. So this is the work of the NIC. If you remember, the NIC does that. Right, the materials, that is the transmitter, cable, and receiver used are expensive, and there is need of a higher level of expertise if you are going to use fiber optics. And mostly local area networks, they do not use fiber optics because of these like disadvantages in that it's expensive, and then you would need someone who knows clearly how it works. And if in any way, maybe there is a problem, that same person would be able to sort out the issues. So this is expensive and it needs a high level of expertise. It's difficult to install due to the equipment and technical expertise. And in terms of coverage, this one covers long distances. That's why it can be used to connect one continent or one location to the other. So it's not limited in terms of distance. Then this one, when we talk about like electromagnetic interference, it's minimum because it's light that is being transferred. And in terms of security, there are low security risks. Right, then radio waves, these ones uses radio waves, and then relatively cheap to install and minimum expertise required to set up. We are talking of, for instance, also Wi-Fi, it uses the same, and then relatively simple to install with minimum equipment and technical expertise, and then can cover very short to very long distances depending on the device used. So if it's Bluetooth, it has a range, certain range, maybe 20 meters. And then when it's Wi-Fi, also it has a certain range, right? Then prone to interference and security risks are influenced by the device used. Nowadays, there are people who can hack. In fact, we call that, there is piggybacking, where someone can steal your access codes to, and then end up using your internet without you knowing. Obviously, if you have unlimited like internet access at home, your neighbors might be stealing, and then that one we call it piggybacking. And then as compared to, let's say if you have UTP and then someone intercepts your information, that one is called eavesdropping, right? We are going to deal with these concepts much later though. Right, then infrared, you use this one quite a lot, your remote controls at home, and then no cost involved, and then allows computers and other electronic devices to communicate via short range light signals. And then this one, the disadvantage of this one mostly is it only, it depends on inline communication, which means if there is a barrier or something that blocks you from where the device that you want to communicate with is, then the signal cannot pass through. Unlike Bluetooth, which can work, Wi-Fi can work, but infrared, it only works in line of communication. And then it carries a low security risk. Any questions? Any questions so far? Right, then just a comparison between UTP and fiber optics in terms of these three important concepts. These concepts, you get them in your theory exams. Attenuation. Now UTP, now when we talk of attenuation, right, remember we said as the signal moves along the wires, it loses strength, that is attenuation. That's why UTP should be at least a maximum of 100 meters. If it's more than that, then remember the copper cables also they offer, even though it's minimum resistance to the movement of electric charges. But the longer the cable, then the higher the resistance. So resistance depends on the length. So that's why it's limited to 100 meters. Then fiber optics has much lower attenuation than UTP. It can transmit over thousands and thousands of, we can say kilometers, longer distances. And then eavesdropping, UTP is sensitive to eavesdropping, although the twisting does help reduce the sensitivity. Now that's why the cables are twisted and covered, is to try to reduce the risk of eavesdropping, right? This is where someone can connect onto the wires and steal your data, right? Then fiber is immune to eavesdropping. If the signal was tapped, the flow of light would be broken and the tapping would be detected. So for instance, for the UTP cables, someone can go and cut the cables and connect their device there. That's how they can steal information from the network. Whereas with fiber optic, if the cables are cut, then it's easily detected that nothing is passing through, right? So which means fiber optic is more secure, right? Then the third concept, which is electromagnetic interference, UTP is sensitive to EMI, that is electromagnetic interference, and power surges, although the twisting does help reduce the sensitivity. Also, the twisting does help. Then fiber optics is not affected by electromagnetic interference or power surges. It can be used in areas such as factories, oil refineries, where electromagnetic fields can affect communication. Any questions? Right, time to recap. If possible, you can just give one-word answers. Then list and describe, let's just list the essential basic network components. We spoke about roughly 5 to 6. Is it 4 to 5? Can you just list the basic network components? Just list one at a time, and then we see how you understood this part of the lesson. Nodes, correct. That's excellent, Chatwanashe. What else? Remember, nodes referring to the computing devices such as computers, printers, mobile devices, laptops, desktops, network interface controllers. Perfect, Otatile. Good. What else? Network operating system. Perfect. You need an operating system communication medium such as, good. That's good, Kamu, good. Lesego, good. Excellent, right? What on communication medium? What are the communication medium? We have two. Let's see. Infrared, okay, it's infrared, it's what does it fall under? Infrared, what does it fall under? Remember, we have two types. Wireless LAN infrared, it falls under what? What communication medium? These are examples. We discussed the two of them. Wireless, perfect, that's it. What is the other one then? If you say wireless and then easily, the other one is easy now. Wired medium, so we have two, wireless, and then those are examples that were given, which is wireless LAN, infrared, and then wired. And then we have under wired, we have what types of cabling do we use? There are two of them. What are they? UTP, perfect. Unshielded twisted pair. What else? The other one? Okay, that's fiber optic. Perfect. You can just, instead of raising that, you can just put in the answers. Perfect. So you did get this one, correct? So compare these two, it's fine. The other one is cabled, and then this one is wireless, it's fine. Right, and then state which communication medium would benefit each situation and support the answer. Let's just state, right, air traffic controller. Which communication medium would suit that one? Is it wired or wireless? Air traffic controller. Air traffic controller. Remember, air traffic controller, just imagine at the airport, that person can be on the runway. Do they need wired? Then it's wireless, wireless. Yeah, wireless has more hits, right? So it's wireless in that case. And then for a gamer, wired, excuse me, wired can work for gamers. And also in a way you can, let's say for instance, yeah, but let's just leave it there. Wired, yeah, it depends. Wireless can also, you can get marks there as well for wireless. But remember that one, there has to be a wired whatever connection, and then from there it can be wireless. Then an office with several employees working at fixed workstations. Just to check the word fixed. Then it's wired. If we are talking of something fixed, then it's wired, correct. And then watching a TV. Watching a TV. You can have also cable TV. Yeah, that's it. Right, then types of networks. We have about 4 types that we're going to discuss. The first one being the personal area network, PAN. This one covers, so the difference is how the extension to where it gets. So this one, it covers a very small area and connects devices within a certain range. Examples, connecting your smartphone to, and then a wireless speaker to the headphones, and then to other wireless devices. So this is the smallest. And then you move on to a HAN, which is home area network, and then covers a large area like your home and connects devices from anywhere within the house. So within the house, you'll be able to connect to any device. Then the LAN, which covers a little bit larger area, like an office, a school, or a bigger area. And then this now, the devices can either be connected wirelessly or wired. And then the reasons being to share resources, information, to transfer files, and to communicate through emails, instant messaging channels. And then lastly, you have the wide area network, which covers a very large area like a city, a country, or the whole world. And then this one commonly known as the internet. But now for you to connect, you do it through what we call an internet service provider, ISP. And examples of these are Telecom, MTN, Vodacom. And these ones, they give you permission to get linked to the whole wide world. Any questions there? Any questions? Just to type in, if you have a question, quickly type in the question. Just waiting for at least one or two questions, then we can proceed. No questions? So, okay. Okay, can you get your own connection without any of the ISPs? No, you need an ISP to get connected. Like for instance, if you are going, you are using, let's say for instance, MTN, that's your mobile service provider is your ISP, right? For you to get connected to the internet, definitely you need one. There is no other way that you can connect without an ISP. Right, then types of network architecture. Types of network architecture. Now, this one refers to the differences in the way that the network is built. Architecture, the difference in the way the network is built. We have two types, which are peer-to-peer and then client-server. So in the next slide, we are going to talk a little bit about what a peer is, what a client is, and what a server is. Right, clients. These are computers, PCs, or workstations. Now, the difference that you need to note is how it provides, how the connection is done, right? So this one use but do not provide network resources. So a client only use, but it does not provide any network resources. It just uses, it's a user. They rely on servers for resources such as files and printing. Right? And then number two, you have servers. These ones, they are there only to provide network resources. We can't say you buy a server to use for maybe graphics design. No, it's a waste of money. They are expensive and they need the hardware that is used is powerful, and it's meant only to provide services to other computers. So these ones, they only provide. whereas clients, they use. And then peers, these are those computers that both use and provide network resources. So peers, they use and also provide. So it's like a combination of client and server. That is a peer. So it uses as well as to provide. Whereas servers, they only provide, and clients, they only use. What is client server? This one used to manage a client server network where computers connect to the server for resources, and then also used for large networks. And then these ones, they offer high security, right? So you have a server, and then all the computers, they communicate through that server. So it means if the server is down, then there is no communication to other computers or networks. Right, then we have peer-to-peer network. Each computer on the network connects directly to the network and to the other nodes. So this one, resources are shared amongst the computers, and then home, it can be used at home and also in a very small network. And then printers, internet access, and files can be shared, right? With this one, if one of the PCs crashes, the network is not affected because the computers, they are working, they have all the resources on them, that is, including they use and provide network resources. So even if one of them malfunctions, the whole network still goes on. Whereas the client server, if the server goes down, then the whole network is down. Any questions? Just a comparison. Then computers, these ones, they are equals in a peer-to-peer, and then there is no server necessary, whereas this one is necessary, and then all computers have high specifications. Then on this one, rest of the computers in the network do not have to have a large disk, that is client server, right? Can only be used with a small number of computers, that is peer-to-peer. And then this one, more suitable for a larger number of computers, and then can be installed by a person with reasonable low technical skills, whereas this one, you need high technical skills for the server. And then low, you have slow performance, and then this one, high performance for the server, because remember, it's providing resources to all the other computers. And then access control when logging into a network, this is in general, refers to policies put in place. If you remember, we spoke about users, right? And then you need a username, and then also security and confidentiality of data is important. And then you set all these using utilities that we have already studied. And then how do you know that you are connected to a network? Right, if you check on the taskbar where you have the time, and then you see this there, then you should know that you are connected to the network. And also, if you go to the, let's say the network at internet through the control panel utility, you will see also the computers that are connected, and then it shows you have internet access, right? And that brings us to this. Let's just do this quick question to recap, which is on page 111, and then which type of network is better suited to each of the following? Number one, choose from a peer-to-peer or client server. So your 4 friends get together to host a LAN party at one of their houses. Which one would you use? Peer-to-peer or LAN client? Peer, perfect, that's it. B, a school that has 2 computer labs used for both CAT and IT, and where the educators and administrative staff all use the same network. Which one? Client server, perfect. The local dentist office where there is 1 computer in reception and 1 in each of the 2 dentist's office. Which one would you use? Peer-to-peer. And remember, the data has to go to the what? To the doctors as well. Is it to the reception? Yeah, peer-to-peer can work, as well as you can have a small server, because also, yeah, to easily share the data. Right, and then a temporary network that is being set up to run a large craft market for a week. There will be 8 different computers set up in the management office to run the inventory and sales. What would you use? Client server. Perfect. Right, so today we have, you should be able to identify the components of a network, number 1, number 2, types of networks, and then be able to distinguish between client server and peer-to-peer. And then lastly, should be able to understand how network access control works. Right, so for in our next lesson, we will be doing consolidation on networks. So just to be prepared, there will be a set of questions that will be running through from past exam papers and how you can answer them correctly. Then our next topic for next week is going to be electronic communication. Then we are done with content for second term. Right, our resources remain the same. The free book and study opportunity grade 10 IT is great textbook. Any questions that you might have? We have 2 minutes. Any questions that, okay, bye, Ontatile. Enjoy the rest of the day and stay safe. Okay, good. So we meet again tomorrow. Bye-bye, Kamo. Bye-bye, Kenelwe.